Hello everyone, this is Marshall Official. This is going to be a recap episode for the month of September for the Russia-Ukraine war, all the advances made by both sides in the month of September. I also just want to point out that obviously I've been gone for a couple of days. I mentioned several times how there have been videos have been coming out a little bit, spaced out in between. Just been super busy. I mean literally extremely busy. But good news, everything that I have been doing has been leading up to what happened today. I had something I had prepared for today, but it's done. Today is now over, and I can tell you now, you guys can expect a lot more videos to be coming out from me for the foreseeable future. I can't promise videos every single day, but most days for sure. I'm still gonna be busy, just nowhere near as busy. So with that, let's go ahead and start recapping all the advancements that they made throughout September. And I also will be sure to give you guys a video about the advancements made on the front line for the first 5 days of October. So we get that out of the way as well. So that'll come out not long from after this video. So let's start up here in the Kursk region. Ukraine forces throughout the month of September did launch a secondary incursion into the Kursk region, right over here, where they were trying to advance onto the village of Veseloy and Ubakroe. The Ukraine forces launched this attack here. They also advanced right here on this little village right here. They did this mainly as a response to this major Russian advancement right here. As you know, back in August, the Ukraine forces launched this major cross-border incursion and were able to capture all this ground here, plus this ground right over here. Russian forces have now been able to recapture this ground over here, taking back huge amounts of territory. The Ukrainian forces launched this other attack right here, mostly as a response to that. Russian forces have been evident making gains elsewhere on this front line. They've recaptured the ground up here as well as over here. They've recaptured most of the village of Orgorovka, and generally are pushing the Ukrainians away from Koronevo. The Ukrainian forces have made marginal gains themselves. They managed to capture this little piece right here, here, and over here, as well as this little piece right there, and right here. So overall, the Ukrainian forces have made marginal gains as well, but the Russian forces are clearly gaining more ground than the Ukrainians are. Russian forces also managed to completely undo Ukraine's little breakthrough they made up here. At one point, the Ukrainian forces were as far as Pesheno and Guri. I'm not sure how to say that, but I think that's pretty close. But now Russian forces have been able to push them all the way back over here. They recaptured Forky and Spolony. They're now advancing on to Plakovo. So that is your whole. Just catching you guys up. That is your whole of all the advancements for the Kursk region throughout the month of September. So moving on to the Vovchansk region, we have only two pretty insignificant gains. This one's a little bit significant, but it's still not much. The Ukrainian forces were able to recapture the aggregate plant from the Russian forces, and at some point throughout September. That is the only reasonable advancement in the city itself. Russian forces themselves were able to capture a tree line over here in the west around TK. Russian forces at one point actually controlled all this territory over here, but it was retaken by the Ukrainian forces a while ago. But now the forces were able to, at one point in September, to retake this little piece of ground right here, but otherwise it is simply marginal. The front is effectively dead at this point. This front is almost actually completely forgotten at this point. I'm not even sure how many forces both sides even still have stationed here, but it's pretty clear that the Kharkiv front at this point is a fairly stable slash I would even say dead front at this point. It's like the Kherson front. The only other change was this Ukrainian advancement right here, capturing this little patch of forestry right here. But other than that, there's nothing to talk about on this front whatsoever. Moving on to the Sinkivka front slash the Kupiansk front, Russian forces actually managed to do some pretty successful things in this month. Russian forces were able to surprise pretty much everybody by suddenly capturing Sinkivka, as well as this fourth patch here, and here. They advanced into and actually reached just into the town of Petropavlivka, it's actually a very massive village. You think about it. Here's the village right here, just for reference. The village starts way over here and goes off and all the way down to here, It's a massive village, but it's not a city. There are no high-rise buildings or factories. It's all residential areas, but it just goes on forever, reaching all the way out to here. So this one village is just simply massive. I mean, look, it even reaches as far out to over here, to this river right here. So it's enormous, but the Russian forces are trying to advance into it right as we speak. But it is going quite slow. On the Peshani front, Russian forces have continued to make significant gains throughout the month of September. They've captured patches here, here, here. No extra villages were taken by Russian forces, but they were able to capture significant parts of open ground and tree lines. They are now only, as of the end of September, they were only 2.7 miles away from reaching the Oskil River, and some areas it's even closer. Like right here, it's only 2.2. So Russian forces are continuing their advancements on this front line. In general, they are trying to break this semicircle around Kupiansk, capture all this territory right here, reach the Oskil River, and then storm Kupiansk itself. However, this front, although Russian forces are advancing on this front, it is one of the much slower fronts compared to elsewhere. Russian forces also made a gain right here, north of Stelmakivka. Russian forces were also able to capture this piece of ground right here around Rivka. Over here, we do have significant changes on this part of the front throughout September. Russian forces will completely capture the town of Makiivka and Nevelsky, as well as all the ground in between. We've also advanced heavily around here, east of Novosladove. This front is clearly an active front for the Russian forces. They're advancing broadly along this entire front line, from here all the way down to here. Their goal is clearly to capture all ground east of the Zerbrets River. By capturing this area up here, they can push southward through Ternay down to Torske down here. Russian forces are clearly doing this because they've tried so hard to take Torske by pushing this way, but clearly it has been stopped by the Ukrainians every single time. But now they can push south along here and cut all this area off and take it through a much easier effort. There's no denying that Russian forces are active on this part of the front line. On the Siversk front, we have minimal changes. This front is one of the most unchanged fronts for more than 2 years now. The only changes we have are a small Russian advancement up here north of Bilohorivka, a small Russian advancement right here, a Ukrainian advancement where they managed to actually recapture Ivano-Darivka. Russian forces were able to capture Vrimka, and Russian forces were able to push into Perizhine. So Russian forces are somewhat active on this front line, but it's mostly just stationary battles resulting in slight changes here and there. Russian forces are slowly becoming more active on this front line. At some point, we will probably see a major Russian push to take over Siversk from all directions. But as of right now, it's still far too early to start talking about the collapse of the Siversk front. As for the Chasiv Yar front, minimal gains by the Russian forces. The most impressive advancement by the Russian forces was their ability to actually completely capture virtually all ground on the eastern side of the canal, leaving only this small little piece right here and this small little piece up here by Horyarivka. Now, technically, the canal does continue all the way over to here towards Sloviansk, but as for the part of the front line where they're actually fighting around the canal, Russian forces basically managed to capture all ground to the east of it. They managed to push to the west of the canal right here. They've pushed into Chasiv Yar itself, and they were able to capture the entirety of Kalinia, and they've also managed to capture half of Horyarivka. The Ukrainian forces managed to make a counterattack of their own right here and capture this small piece of ground right here. So to summarize this front, it's quite slow. Again, it is slow. This front is going even slower than that active part of the front line up in Luhansk/Kharkiv. Russian forces are definitely still setting their sights on Chasiv Yar, but at this point, I think Chasiv Yar is much more of a secondary operation compared to their battles elsewhere. So we're now going to move on to what I would say is our first very significant part of the front line, and that is the Toretsk front. Russian forces have made major gains, capturing the entirety of New York. The Ukrainian forces at one point launched a major counterattack and were able to recapture grounds right here, but that is clearly long in the past. Russian forces were able to completely recapture all of New York, capturing basically the entirety of Nelipivka, and are now pushing into Leonidivka. If Russian forces continue their advancement at this rate, give it another month, they managed to go from here to here. Give it another month, Russian forces will be able to go from here to over here. They're trying to get behind, in my opinion, behind Toretsk to encircle it and cut it off. Russian forces were able to complete the capture of Druzhba, which was the last of the 3 villages standing in Russia's way of capturing Toretsk. These 3 villages right here, Pivichne, Zeline, and Druzhba. Druzhba was the last one to fall. Russian forces captured the last of it. As for the city itself, Russian forces have made considerable gains, capturing piece by piece of the city. They even managed to capture virtually the entirety of the city center, leaving only a few areas of major resistance for the Ukrainians to actually hold on to, namely the Terracons, and other than that, the stadium. The Russian forces clearly have a strong goal of capturing this city. I probably suspect that Russian forces will, by the end of the year, Russia will completely capture the territory of something like this. By the end of the year, all this will be in Russian control. Alright, moving on to the main part of the front line. Starting up here on the Pokrovsk front, Russian forces have managed to completely turn around the Ukrainian counterattack that they've made here. Russian forces were able to capture Mykolivka, Krasny Yar, and Kryvyi Yar a good while ago. Ukraine managed to counterattack and recapture Mykolivka, and also push the Russian forces out of Krasny Yar and Kryvyi Yar. But now Russian forces are to completely turn it around. They've also managed to completely capture Horodivka and recapture all the lost villages. Russian forces now sit only about a mile, less than a mile actually, from reaching the first buildings of Mirnograd. Russian forces have also resumed their offensive west of Novorodivka, aiming for these villages to the south of Pokrovsk, as well as trying to reach the railway from this direction, which they will follow directly into Pokrovsk itself. They've captured two Terracons, as well as entering the first towns of Lisivka. On the Seladovi front, Russian forces are trying to encircle Seladovi. They've captured this ground here. They've pushed into the city itself from this direction right here, as well as over here. Capturing this area right here. In general, it's good Russian forces are trying to push along this road to the north to encircle Seladovi. But this is the main part of the front. You can see all these major Russian advances made over several days, over the whole month, I should say, of September, capturing here and then moving on. Russian forces were able to completely break through west of Krasnoyarivka. Krasnoyarivka has now been left completely in the dust. They actually completed the capture of Krasnoyarivka by capturing this northern area right here, which happened extremely rapidly, which was not thought possible. But after that, the Russian forces completely just broke through entirely west of Krasnoyarivka, capturing the small village of Hostry and also the prison right here. In general, Russian forces are aiming for Kharkova. That is their main goal in this part of the front line. And this is Russia's main front at this point. They've managed to reach the railway from this direction, enter the village of Truskakrive, and they're going to continue their advance along this railway towards the Volcha River. And our final main part of the front is the Vuhledar front. Spoiler alert, Vuhledar has fallen. As of the end of September, this is the situation as on the front line. Russian forces started their offensive here in the east by capturing. Russian forces used to be back here. Like here's Novomykolivka. Russian forces used to be back here. But now they've pushed all the way up, capturing the entirety of this road, capturing Voldyane and pushing beyond it. But anyway, as I was saying, Russian forces, they captured Voldyane and kept on pushing. They've effectively begun to encircle Voldyane already. Vuhledar. From the east and from the west over here. Because Russian forces also made these advances capturing Prechestivka. And in general, Vuhledar is over. We already know it's over because it has now fallen. But already by the end of September, it was clear that Vuhledar was over. Other than that, Russian advancement right here, north of Staromayorsky. Nothing big there. 2 Russian gains north of Robotne. 1 Russian gain east over here in the east. It was made by Lubova. I already deleted it, but it was right here. And also, I already deleted this one. Russian forces were able to capture this area right here on this island. With that, that is your entire map update for the entire month of September. That is your recap. Thank you guys for coming by. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I will make sure to get that map update for the first few days of October out in a couple of days. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.